Mom, this is where we part ways.
Monica, what do you mean, part ways?
She threw her bag and left me behind in the park. I never imagined that I would leave the house in such a way. Still, God was watching over me. When one door closes, another opens. Thanks to a kind angel who reached out to me, I found the greatest happiness. My name is Gianna. I just turned 70. 5 days a week, I volunteer to watch over the children on their way to school, greeting them and offering words of encouragement. Are you a first grader? A small girl, struggling to keep up with the older students at the front of the group.
Good morning.
She greeted me with a bright, sunny smile. Gianna, how have you been? Has your cough improved?
Well, nights are still a bit tough, but seeing the children's smiles is the best medicine for me. And it's all thanks to Martez for getting me involved in volunteering.
Martez, who lives nearby, was my late husband's childhood friend. He lost his wife to illness 10 years ago and has been living alone since. Oh, by the way, I heard that someone new is taking over your restaurant.
What?
The restaurant he was referring to was the one I used to run. I closed it down shortly after my husband passed away a year ago, and it's been vacant ever since. It's a bit sad to think of it passing into someone else's hands. Are you still attached to that place? Not really, but I did wish Kyrie would take over. I guess I am a bit sentimental. Kyrie was my son's high school classmate and former girlfriend. She helped out at the restaurant since her high school days and continued to visit and help even after she graduated from college and became a working adult. She once said, "When you close the restaurant, I will take over." I thought there was nothing more delightful than my daughter-in-law taking over the place I inherited from my mother-in-law. But unfortunately, that dream never came true. By the way, how is D'Angelo doing with his work these days? Who knows? When will he ever get his act together? D'Angelo is my only son.
Gianna, I'm going to be a big shot someday, and I'll make sure you live comfortably.
My son, whose catchphrase has always been about becoming big, is a self-proclaimed comedian. I was shocked when he suddenly declared his intention to become a comedian at the age of 40. When he told us he was dropping out of college to pursue comedy, my husband was furious.
Do you think we sent you to college just so you could become a comedian? Making a living as a comedian isn't that easy. If you insist on doing it, leave this house.
My stubborn husband, Yancey, issued this ultimatum to our son. But even until just before he passed away, Yancey was concerned about our son's future. It is often said that children don't live up to their parents' expectations. My son has accomplished little over the years. I've seen him on TV only once. And it wasn't as a comedian but as an extra in a drama, just the back of a passerby. He claims he performs in rural areas and small stages, but it's unclear whether he is truly active as a comedian. 8 years ago.
Mom, I think I want to get married.
I suddenly received a call from my son.
I was so happy I could dance, thinking Kyrie would finally become part of our family.
But the woman my son brought home was someone I'd never seen before. I hate to say it, but I was shocked because I had always thought it would be Kyrie. Since then, Kyrie stopped coming to the store. After that, my son's marriage didn't last long, and they divorced in 2 years. And less than a year after that divorce, he got married for the second time. Then a year and a half ago, he got married for the third time. His current wife is Monica. She's 26 years old, more than a decade younger than my son, who is 40 and still doesn't have a steady job. I can't understand what she sees in him, but I'm grateful she likes him. At first, I was surprised by Monica's flashy makeup, but it's her style. She's cheerful and innocent, with a bright and straightforward personality. I thought we'd get along well. I started living with my son and his wife about 6 months ago. My son suggested it because he was worried about me living alone after Yancy passed away. If we live together, can I leave the house chores to you, Gianna?
Of course. They say those who do not work shall not eat, you know. Is that a dig at me, Gianna? Oh, you noticed?
I initially declined the offer, thinking I preferred living alone, but it might not be so bad after all. However, by the second day of living together, I already began to regret it.
Gianna, why did you wash our clothes together with yours?
Monica stormed into the kitchen where I was cooking dinner, looking angry as soon as she came back from work.
Why? Well, I thought it would be rude to leave the laundry in the machine, so I just washed everything together. I didn't wash them together deliberately. If you don't want me to wash your clothes, please put them in a separate basket next time. Even so, you should have asked me first.
She muttered like she was chanting a spell, heading to the bathroom, then she quickly came back.
One more thing. Please take your bath last. What? I don't want to soak in the tub after you. It's fine for now since I only need a shower, but please, go last.
She was treating me like I was dirty. At that moment, as if on cue.
I'm home. Oh, I'm starving.
My clueless son came home. Gianna, I'm home.
Oh, welcome back. D'Angelo, welcome home. Wow, my favorite steak. Let me have a taste. Delicious.
I noticed Monica glaring at him while he happily ate the food I made. Before living together, I thought her expressive emotions and straightforwardness were her charms, but now it's hard to deal with her constant outbursts. Sigh. Compared to when I ran the diner, I should be much more relaxed, but by the time I get to bed, I'm exhausted. I don't know when it started, but I began coughing once I got into bed, and the cough wouldn't stop, leading to sleepless nights.
Gianna, are you okay with that cough?
One night, my son came into the room after coming home late. Oh, this cough. The doctor said it might be a recurrence of my asthma attacks, but I'm fine. Don't worry. The doctor had told me that changes in environment and stress could trigger the attacks, but I kept that part to myself. Well, that's good to hear. You need to live a long life. Just hang in there a bit longer. I'll become a big star and make life easy for you.
Oh? Since when did you upgrade from big to big star?
Let's see, when did that happen? For a man, the bigger the dream, the better, right? Honestly, I don't expect you to make my life easy. I'm living on a pension now, but if push comes to shove, I have enough money to move into a facility.
But Mom!
Listen to me until the end. What I want most is for you to get a stable job and build a normal family. A fourth time is out of the question, please. At that moment, I was already thinking about leaving this house and living on my own. A few days later, on Sunday.
Gianna, I'm off work today, so how about we go for lunch and do some shopping afterward?
Usually grumpy in the mornings, Monica suddenly invited me out cheerfully. Gianna, you should go. I'll be on a sales trip from today for a while, so you two have fun. Monica's unusual behavior made me slightly suspicious, but doubting her wouldn't do any good. Monica, thank you. Then I'll take you up on that offer. I gladly accepted my wife's invitation. We went out in her car. We had lunch at a chic Western-style restaurant, did some shopping, and had a wonderful time. Gianna, shall we head home soon?
Yes, thank you so much for today. I had a great time.
We chatted about nothing in particular as we made our way back home. All right, Gianna. Please get out here.
What?
She stopped the car at the entrance to a park, not at our house. Gianna, this is where we part ways.
Monica, what do you mean?
I can't take care of you, Gianna. Absolutely not.
Why this all of a sudden?
Your coughing has been keeping me up at night. If I catch something bad and it affects the baby, it would be a disaster.
Monica! You're pregnant?
Anyway, so as not to burden us, please find somewhere else to live, either an apartment or a facility. She spat out those words, then opened the passenger window and threw my bag towards the park.
Wait a minute, Monica. What are you doing?
I hurriedly got out of the car. Gianna, here's a present. Monica tossed the box of cakes I bought from the pastry shop out of the car window towards me. Call me once you've found a place to live. I'll send the rest of your stuff. Take care. With that, she drove off, waving. The cake I bought is all dirty now. I picked up the cake that had fallen out of the box.
Grandma, are you okay?
Huh? You are. It was the girl who always greeted me cheerfully. Thank you, I'm fine. Don't worry, go play with your friends.
Grandma, I'm going home now, so come with me. What? Thank you, but it would surprise your mom if a stranger came along.
No, it won't. Mom always says to help out elders in trouble. She'll be happy. Not wanting to reject the girl's kind offer, I agreed. Okay, just for a bit, I said, letting the girl lead me by the hand. This is my house.
This is your house?
The girl's home was a stylish new high-rise that had been built about 6 months ago. Yeah. She lives at the very top here. We went up to the 14th floor, and I rang the doorbell.
What?
For a moment, I couldn't understand the situation at all.
Why are you here? Grandma, do you know Mom?
Yes, I know her. Your mom's name is Kyrie, right? That's right. Standing before me was Kyrie, whom I hadn't seen in 8 years. Georgina. Kyrie, can you let Gianna and I talk for a bit? Go play in your room, okay?
Sure, got it.
Once inside the living room, I asked her.
Is that little girl Georgina?
Yes. I always thought she was a cute girl who greeted me cheerfully every morning, but I never imagined she was your child, Kyrie. So, did you get married after that? She answered softly. No, I'm not married. Actually, she is D'Angelo's child.
What? D'Angelo's child? So, that means she's my granddaughter.
I almost shouted out loud. Yes. I found out I was pregnant shortly after D'Angelo told me he was going to marry another woman. I'm sorry I kept it a secret until now. She told me she had left her job at the securities company to focus on real estate investments she had started while working there. Now, she owns 10 apartment buildings and lives comfortably off the rental income.
Was it tough raising a child on your own?
No, not at all. Gianna.
Yes?
I know it's sudden, but would you like to live with us?
What?
I was surprised by her sudden offer. I heard about your situation from Martez. I thought if you were looking for a place to stay, you could live with us. But I didn't expect to meet you like this.
I see. Martez never mentioned anything about it.
Thank you, Kyrie. But I don't want to be a burden. It's no trouble at all. I lost my parents early on, and my grandmother, who was like a parent to me, passed away before Georgina was born. Now it's just the two of us.
I see. I'm sorry to hear about your grandmother. But what about Georgina? How does she feel about it?
Georgina!
Come here.
Yes. I want to know if you'd like to live with me and her together. What do you think? Georgina put her small hand on her chin and thought for a moment.
Yes. I'm all for it,
she replied with a smile. I've always wanted a grandma. Gianna, will you be my grandma? Looking into her innocent, earnest eyes, there was no way I could say no.
Of course, I'd love to,
I answered with a smile. The next day, I called Monica. Monica? It's me. I've decided to live in the apartment my nephew runs, so could you send my things?
Oh, Gianna, you found a place to move to. Congratulations.
She probably wanted to get my stuff out as soon as possible. 2 days later, I received a call to say my things had arrived. When I opened the boxes brought to the apartment, I was shocked. Among my crumpled clothes, my husband's urn had been carelessly tossed in. It's not just me you're disrespecting, but Yancy too. You'll regret this someday. What I muttered casually soon came to pass. Okay, tomorrow's the first day. Let's give it our all, both of you. But what exactly were we preparing for? The conversation I had with Kyrie that day at her house had more to it. Gianna, how about we run a diner together?
The diner? But that place has already been shut down, and I heard a new tenant has been found.
Yes, I know about that. Because that new tenant is me.
What? It was you?
Yes. I've already completed most of the paperwork and preparations so that we can reopen any time. We're just waiting on you now.
Oh, I see.
That's how the conversation went. The next day, the grand reopening of the diner finally arrived. We wore matching bandanas and aprons that we had prepared for this day, and Martez also came over to help out. Longtime regular customers came in one after another, and we had a great time reminiscing about old times. I couldn't believe I was standing in the diner with Kyrie again, and with my granddaughter, no less. It felt so surreal that I even pinched my cheek to make sure I wasn't dreaming. Day after day, we were busy but fulfilled. One day, out of the blue. Gianna, what are you doing here?
Wait, Gianna. What? Kyrie, why are you here?
It wasn't a setup or anything. My son and his wife had come in as customers.
What am I doing?
Isn't it obvious? I'm working at this diner. If you're here to eat, sit down quietly. You're bothering the other customers. There was just a little time left until closing. Inside the diner, 3 regulars were still there. My son and his wife noticed the regulars and gave a slight nod before quietly taking a seat at a table.
Gianna, you don't have to treat us like customers. Just continue whatever you were doing.
Then my son, who had been staring at Kyrie, finally spoke up.
Kyrie, where have you been all this time? We've been worried sick because we couldn't get in touch with you.
Where? What? Do I owe you any explanation? I had never seen Kyrie speak so coldly and indifferently to my son before.
Like Kyrie said, you call yourself a comedian, but you betrayed the person who stood by your side. Where do you get the nerve to ask her that? It's not like I betrayed her. Hold on, D'Angelo. What's going on? What kind of relationship do you have with that person?
My son was suddenly under a barrage of questions from 3 women.
Don't gang up on me.
He sounded almost like he was about to cry. More importantly, Gianna, are you really commuting here every day from an apartment more than an hour away? He suddenly asked, looking serious.
Yes, I run here every day. Of course not. I live in a luxury apartment not far from here now,
I said, trying to sound a bit like a celebrity.
A luxury apartment.
Yes, on the top floor of a luxury apartment. And it's all thanks to Monica for leaving me in that park back then. Right, Monica?
What?
I gave a sly smile, and she was so startled that she spilled the water from her glass.
Oh, Gianna, I didn't abandon you. I just left you. Ah.
Monica couldn't hide her panic, her eyes darting around. My son, sensing the chance to turn the tables, pressed her for answers.
Monica, what's the meaning of this? Didn't Gianna leave the house on her own?
Feeling cornered, Monica tried to escape the situation.
I need to go to the restroom,
she said, starting to get up from her chair. And at that moment,
I'm home.
My granddaughter Georgina cheerfully returned from school. And then,
oh, it's that person.
She pointed at Monica, raising her voice.
You were the one who left Gianna in the park, right? What? Those panda-like eyes and lips that look like sausages. And the car was red with the number 12-01. My vision is perfect.
I was amazed by my granddaughter's memory. That wasn't the only surprise.
When you do something wrong, you should say sorry. Didn't your teachers teach you that?
She gently scolded Monica, like a mother teaching her child.
Why should I apologize?
Monica continued to be stubborn. Then, Georgina walked over to Monica and gently placed her hand on her back.
Hey!
Monica started crying, like a child being scolded by her mother.
I'm sorry, Gianna.
As expected, my son and his wife got divorced, and Monica left the house. What happened to the child she claimed to be carrying? It turned out she wasn't pregnant at all. It was just an excuse to kick me out of the house. After leaving, Monica tried to find an apartment, but she was rejected everywhere. Of course, all the properties were owned by Kyrie. Meanwhile, my son faced his third divorce.
I'll be Georgina's father. Let's get back together and live as a family.
He begged Kyrie, but she ignored him, and he cried. A fitting end for a man who never learns. It's my own fault. Of course, I haven't told my son about Georgina's real father. Gianna, I have something to discuss with you.
What is it? You look so serious. Is something bothering you?
It's not like that. Actually, I'm thinking of moving out of this apartment.
Why?
I've always dreamed of it. Living in a high-rise apartment, seeing the view from the top. But now, I think a house where the three of us can live comfortably would be better.
Oh, that's it.
I was worried you didn't want to live with me anymore.
No way!
I'm relieved. To be honest, I'm not very fond of heights.
Really? I didn't know that. Kyrie, Gianna, come here. The stars are beautiful.
We went out to the balcony, and the night sky was full of beautiful stars.
Gianna, that biggest star is Dad.
My granddaughter pointed to a particularly bright star.
The biggest star is Dad.
Yeah.
Kyrie told me that the brightest star is my dad.
The brightest star meaning the biggest star my son was always saying he would become. I see, that's what it means. Kyrie and I exchanged a smile. I'll take the rich husband.
The ugly wife who can't make money gets divorced.
I got home earlier than usual, with work finishing up sooner. I just wanted to rest my tired body. With that single thought in mind, I headed to the living room. But what I found there was a scene I never expected. Taylor and Virginia were sitting on the couch, getting cozy with each other. Their touch was sensual, and I felt bewildered. But that bewilderment quickly turned to anger.
Well then, you're both fired.
The two made incredulous faces at the word fired. It was as if they were saying, "How can you decide to fire someone?" Even though I had told them many times about my job and position, they still acted shocked now. I told them once more, in a way they could understand, about my true identity. My name is Ashley. I'm 35 years old. I'm a president of a company I inherited from my dad, though it isn't that big. It's busy every day, but that doesn't change the fact that it's a rewarding job. The one who supported me through all this was my husband, Taylor. Taylor and I met back in college. Influenced by TV dramas, I had yearned for the college life experience. I entered my college of choice and began the life I had imagined, with classes and clubs. Just that alone was fun and fulfilling, but at some point, I started thinking I wanted to try things I never could before. That's when I set my sights on a part-time job. In high school, part-time jobs were forbidden, and since I commuted to college from my parents' home, I didn't need a job to get by. But now that I was starting a new life in college, it was the perfect opportunity. I quickly applied for a part-time job at a restaurant and got hired. And that's where Taylor was.
I heard this is your first part-time job, but try not to be too nervous. There's a lot to learn, but just take your time.
Thank you so much. On my first day, when I was feeling anxious, Taylor kindly reassured me, putting me at ease. As you work together, you often grow closer. Taylor and I were no exception. During breaks, on the way home, or whenever we had a moment, we'd start chatting. We learned about each other's hobbies, tastes, how we think, and the lives we had led. We even discovered we attended the same college, giving us more to bond over. From then on, whenever we saw each other on campus, we'd do homework together or have lunch. It didn't take long for us to become a couple. My impression of Taylor hasn't changed at all since we first met. He's incredibly kind, considerate, and wonderful. After we started dating, I fell for him even harder. Enough to want to spend my life with him. Apparently, I wasn't the only one feeling that way. Around the time I graduated college and started working at my father's company, Taylor brought up our future together.
Hey, when things settle down a bit more with both our jobs, will you marry me?
Hearing the word marry made me a little nervous, but my feelings were set. Yes. Of course. If you'll have me. Seeing my answer, Taylor broke into the biggest smile. I'll never forget how happy he looked in that moment. 4 years later, we tied the knot without ever parting ways. Taylor had landed a high-paying job at a prominent company, while I was on track to become president of my own firm someday. Our future together seemed rock solid. Fast forward 4 years into our marriage. I officially took over the reins of the company and stepped up as president. The daily grind of being top dog kept me on my toes non-stop. Between schmoozing with bigwigs left and right, managing my staff, and everything in between. Ugh. I'm beat. The second I walked through the door, I collapsed onto the couch. Taylor shot me a slightly worried look as I lay there, utterly drained.
Haven't you been pushing yourself a little too hard lately? You holding up okay?
Yeah. I'm fine. I just feel like now's the time to buckle down, you know? Things should settle into a groove soon enough.
If you say so.
Taylor set a mug down on the table. The tantalizing aroma of my favorite herbal tea wafted up from its contents.
You went out of your way to brew this for me? Thank you.
Hey, it's nothing. I figured you'd be pretty wiped out. With that, he took a sip from his own mug. Sure, my day-to-day was a whirlwind, but having Taylor's unwavering support kept me from cracking under the pressure. But I never once took this life we'd built for granted. Just as Taylor always had my back, I knew I needed to step up and return the favor. With a renewed sense of gratitude for my incredible husband, I threw myself into my work and household duties with gusto. We had moved into a picture-perfect house, and I was on cloud 9. Little did I know, this blissful chapter wouldn't last forever. Maybe if I had picked up on the red flags with Taylor sooner, or reached out to him differently, things wouldn't have ended the way they did. 1 year into my stint as president, work had finally hit a lull, and we were able to enjoy a more laid-back lifestyle. Then one day, out of the blue, Taylor approached me with a grave expression etched across his face. Seeing him so uncharacteristically somber sent a slight chill down my spine.
Hey, there's a chance I might have to pull a lot of overtime from here on out.
Overtime? That's rough.
Yeah, so I'll probably be coming home pretty late most nights, and I might end up being a bit of a burden on you, so I just wanted to give you a heads up.
Oh, honey, don't worry. I know it'll be tough, but you've got this. My reassurance brought a relieved smile to Taylor's face. I had braced myself for some earth-shattering news, but if it was just a little overtime, there was no need to get too worked up. Just as Taylor had always been there for me, now it was my turn to step up and be his rock. 1 week after Taylor broke the news, true to his word, his overtime hours kept him at the office late into the night. At first, I would often stay up waiting for him to come home. But as the days went by, he started stumbling in later and later. With my own job to juggle, I couldn't afford to burn the midnight oil, and we found ourselves living under the same roof yet hardly seeing each other face to face. Still, on the days he managed to clock out early or when our time off lined up, we made a point to spend that precious time together, so the loneliness never really got too overwhelming. But then one day, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off with Taylor. Out of nowhere, his attitude toward me turned cold and distant.
Welcome home.
Yeah. Even when I tried to strike up a conversation, all I got in return were brusque, half-hearted responses. He wouldn't so much as look me in the eye anymore. The meals I cooked for him, which he used to devour with gusto, were suddenly met with disinterest.
But you said you'd be home for dinner tonight, so I made sure to whip something up.
Plans changed and I already ate with my boss. He invited me out.
Well, you could have at least let me know as soon as it was decided.
God, you're so annoying.
He asked me to go, so what was I supposed to do?
Are we done here?
I'm exhausted and don't feel like talking.
When I first noticed his chilly demeanor, I chalked it up to the fatigue from all those overtime shifts, but apparently that wasn't the case. It didn't take long for me to put 2 and 2 together.
You're working late again tomorrow, right?
What's it to you? What do you mean, what's it to me?
I don't like not knowing when you'll be home, and I have to plan dinner too.
Ugh.
You're such a nag. I'll let you know when I figure it out. That good enough for you?
Clearly eager to cut our conversation short, Taylor tossed out a half-baked compromise.
Oh, okay, got it.
Later. And with that, Taylor left for work without once meeting my gaze. In the end, I never heard a peep from him. No matter how many times I tried to reach out, he couldn't be bothered to pick up.
Welcome home. What happened? You said you'd get in touch with me.
I said that? Doesn't ring a bell. Unlike this morning, Taylor was in a suspiciously chipper mood. Judging by his disheveled suit and overall vibe, he had clearly done his fair share of drinking.
Yes, you did. I tried contacting you myself, but you never answered. I was worried sick, you know? I get that you want to go out for drinks, but you could at least tell me when you'll be back. Get off my case! It's none of your damn business where I go or what I do. And telling you when I'll be home? What am I, a child?
What am I, a child?
Adults worry about each other too. What if you got into an accident or caught up in some incident? I'd have no way of knowing.
An accident? Some incident? Oh, please, like that would ever happen to me. You worry way too much. No matter how much I tried to express my concern for Taylor's well-being, it fell on deaf ears.
Seriously, getting nagged the second I walk through the door? Talk about a buzzkill.
Hey, wait a sec. Without bothering to hear me out, Taylor stormed off to his room. Even if I had tried to keep the conversation going, he obviously wasn't in the mood to listen. I could only watch in silence as his back disappeared from view. Before I knew it, we had fallen into this dysfunctional routine for 2 whole months. The gulf between us only seemed to widen with each passing day. Every attempt to reach out to Taylor was promptly shut down. Finally accepting the futility of it all, I gave up on trying to force a dialogue. Taylor had zero interest in speaking with me either, so even when we occupied the same space, the air hung thick with tension. Where were Taylor and I heading from here? At this point, maybe getting a divorce would be less painful. Just as that thought crossed my mind, I started picking up on traces of another woman in Taylor's life. The lingering scent of feminine perfume whenever he brushed past me. The foundation and glitter clinging to his dress shirts. Each new piece of evidence pointing to another woman's existence felt like a vice grip around my heart. At the same time, I began to question the true nature of his overtime. What if he had been lying about working late as a cover to meet up with his mistress? With this much proof staring me in the face, it would be harder not to be suspicious. Divorce was looking more and more like the right call. I started seriously contemplating ending things with Taylor. To think my feelings could fizzle out so easily for someone I once loved so deeply. Having always pictured us growing old together, this abrupt change of heart left me a bit shaken. But with my mind made up about the divorce, I felt a small sense of relief. We just weren't in love anymore. At first, coming to terms with the fact that Taylor's heart was no longer with me was pure agony. But once my resolve solidified, it didn't faze me one bit. Taking my silence as a green light, Taylor continued to live as he pleased. Forgetting to let me know when he'd be home became the norm. Even when he requested dinner and I prepared it, he'd often come back with a curt "I already ate, so I didn't need it." Moreover, Taylor seemed blissfully unaware that I was onto his cheating. He still had the audacity to toss his dress shirts in the laundry, caked with foundation and lipstick. If he had even an ounce of consideration, he'd make some effort to wash them himself or at least try to get the stains out. Initially, just looking at the evidence was painful, but I gradually grew numb to it. With a cool head, I snapped photos of the incriminating marks on his shirts and saved them in a folder. Every so often, I'd revisit the images, plotting how I would drop the bombshell of divorce on him. One day, as our dysfunctional domestic life dragged on, I suddenly felt compelled to pose a question to Taylor. "Hey, Taylor. Are you really working overtime?"
Huh?
I knew this line of questioning could potentially put me at a disadvantage. But I couldn't help myself, I had to ask.
It's just been on my mind. I know it's a little late to bring this up, but I've noticed you're putting in crazy late hours pretty often. I'm a bit worried about your health.
I felt pathetic, tacking on a flimsy lie to avoid arousing suspicion after such a pointed question. Searching Taylor's face, I awaited his response. With a blatantly exasperated sigh, he finally opened his mouth to speak.
What are you even on about? If I say I'm working overtime, then I'm working overtime. What could I possibly gain by lying to you? You're not bringing in a dime, so I'm busting my ass with all this overtime for your sake. And yet here you are, doubting me. I'm not bringing in a dime. That's right, isn't it? You come home earlier than me every day and just laze around. You used to brag about being some big shot president, but I bet it's just some rinky-dink company, huh? Oh, or maybe you couldn't hack it as president and got demoted.
I couldn't believe my ears. I never claimed to be making exponentially more than the average person. But by society's standards, my earnings were nothing to scoff at. I was still successfully fulfilling my role as president, after all. Well,
Aha. That reaction. I knew it, you did get demoted. Why not just come clean instead of feeding me some bogus story? No, I didn't get demoted or anything.
yeah, I get it.
Just because I'm the breadwinner now doesn't mean you need to put on airs.
It's unbecoming. No matter how much I tried to get through to Taylor, my words seemed to fall on deaf ears. Cutting me off at every turn, he persisted in hurling hurtful remarks my way.
Seriously, marrying a woman like you was the biggest mistake of my life. You're not much to look at, your body's nothing special, and now you're not even pulling your weight financially. How could you?
The only time Taylor cracked a smile in my presence was when he was belittling me. With a malicious grin, he gleefully continued his verbal onslaught. From that point on, Taylor's attitude toward me took an even sharper turn for the worse. I suppose that question tipped him off that I was wise to his infidelity. But rather than try to cover his tracks, he seemed to relish in flaunting his mistress right under my nose. Coming home reeking of another woman's perfume became a daily occurrence. The number of nights he stayed out without a word or stumbled in well past midnight noticeably increased. Naturally, he was never home on his days off.
Heading out again today? What's it to you what I do? You got a problem with that?
No, not particularly.
Then quit yapping at me. It grates on my nerves.
Where had the Taylor I first fell for disappeared to? Did being with me warp his personality, or had he simply been masking his true colors all along? Too frightened to uncover the truth, I couldn't bring myself to pry any further. I had grown accustomed to returning to a dark, empty house. Deep down, I knew it was sad and lonely, but I couldn't bear to face that reality. Acknowledging it felt like it would shatter me to pieces. Just as I had gathered sufficient evidence and was biding my time to broach the topic of divorce, a serendipitous event unfolded. It happened on a day when I was putting in overtime due to a crisis at work. The issue was so severe that I had resigned myself to not making it home until well past midnight. However, I managed to resolve the problem faster than anticipated, allowing me to head home earlier than planned. Though I knew it was pointless, I still informed Taylor that I would be working late. Glancing at my phone as I left the office, I confirmed that, as expected, he hadn't even read my message. At this point, he had probably blocked me. I thought I had grown numb to his callous treatment, but the realization suddenly hit me, leaving me crestfallen. Grabbing a quick dinner from a convenience store, I made my way home. As I arrived and stepped inside, something caught my eye as I went to remove my shoes. Lined up neatly was an unfamiliar pair of cute, ornately decorated high heels. After a momentary mental lapse, it dawned on me that his mistress must be in the house. Careful not to make a sound, I slipped off my shoes and tiptoed toward the living room. Then I opened the door. There, on the couch, sat Taylor and a woman I had never seen before. They were all over each other, their touches oozing with a sensuality that made me want to avert my gaze.
Hey! What do you think you're doing?
Their eyes went wide with shock.
Huh? Wait, why are you here? I thought she was working overtime today. Well, yeah, that's what she said.
From the looks of it, Taylor had invited the woman over, assuming I would be home late due to overtime. He was probably thrown off by my earlier than expected return.
Why the hell are you back already? Didn't you say you might be late tonight? I did say that, but I said I might be late, right? I never said I would definitely be late. Did you even read my message properly? You're seriously pissing me off. Quit nitpicking.
Yeah. Whatever you say. Faced with his baseless accusations, my anger gave way to an eerie calm.
What's the lady's name?
Huh?
Why should I tell you her dash? If you don't tell me, is it okay if I just call her bitch or whore? Virginia.
When I raised my voice, pressuring her, Virginia blurted out her name.
And where did you two meet? At work. Virginia's a colleague. Same company, huh?
I alternated between studying their flustered faces. Now, what to do with them? As I pondered my next move, feigning small talk, Taylor suddenly lashed out.
What the hell is your deal? Barging in here, acting all high and mighty.
Virginia chimed in, emboldened by Taylor's outburst.
Seriously. If you hadn't been vague about working late, this never would have happened. We always meet up somewhere else. Exactly. Quit spouting nonsense.
Their earlier pathetic demeanor nowhere to be seen, they launched into a furious tirade before devolving into a torrent of abuse directed at me, carried away by their own momentum.
And I heard you're not much of a breadwinner.
Pathetic.
This chick kept bragging to me about being some big shot president, but she actually got demoted.
For real?
That's so lame.
Their crass, vulgar laughter grated on my ears, fueling my disgust. Oblivious to my mounting rage, they persisted in their verbal assault. I couldn't let myself get riled up here. I had a hunch that would backfire. Then they crossed a line with their next remarks. I'll take the rich husband.
The ugly wife who can't make money gets divorced.
In that moment, my resolve crystallized. There was only one way to shut them up and put them in their place.
Well then, you're both fired. What?
My declaration left them gaping, at a loss for words. They looked like they wanted to say something, but I pressed on without waiting.
Don't worry. I'll give you that divorce too. I'll personally have a chat with your company. Hey! Why do you get to decide to fire someone? This makes no damn sense. Oh, I get it. You're saying you'll fire us 'cause we cheated? You don't even have proof, so what are you blathering about? Why do I get to decide? Well, I can't do it directly, but I can certainly report you to your superiors. But why?
In response to Taylor's question, I pulled out my business card. Wait, this company is...
You were lying to me all along.
In reality, the company where I serve as president has a business partnership with Taylor's employer. I could have sworn I told Taylor about my job and position multiple times, but...
You're the one who refused to believe anything I said, aren't you? By the way, I also hired a private investigator to gather evidence of your affair. Seems like you two were having quite the time at hotels and even this house during work hours, huh?
After coming to terms with Taylor's infidelity and deciding on divorce, I enlisted a private investigator to obtain irrefutable proof and identify his mistress. Taylor and Virginia were meeting up nearly every day, so 2 weeks was more than enough time to amass a mountain of evidence. Thanks to that evidence, I already knew Virginia's name and that she was Taylor's colleague, but I wanted to hear her say that basic information herself.
I mean, if your bosses found out you were pulling this crap at work, I can't exactly sweep it under the rug, can I? No. Please, don't report us to the company. It'll tank my chances at a promotion. Yeah. Just because you don't approve of us, that's no reason to go that far. You think I'm reporting you because I don't approve? I'm reporting what you did because it's a serious professional transgression. Isn't that obvious? As the president of a company?
When I laid it out in a chillingly calm tone, they averted their eyes, clearly uncomfortable.
So here's the deal, Virginia. Would you mind leaving? Taylor and I need to discuss our divorce.
But
What? After all that fuss, you still have something to say? Once the divorce is finalized, you two will get married anyway, right? Wasn't it you who said you'd take the rich husband?
when I deliberately goaded her, Virginia bit her lower lip in frustration and stormed out of the house. I turned back to Taylor and addressed him once more.
You need to get out too, and soon. Aita? Why should I have to leave? This house is in my name. Legally speaking, it's my property. If anything, why should I be the one to leave? Care to explain?
Of course, he couldn't provide a coherent explanation. Ignoring the silent Taylor, I placed the divorce papers I had prepared, already filled out, in front of him.
Here, sign this. And be out of the house within a week. I have copies, so don't bother trying to toss it. It's too sudden. I mean, you can't just spring a divorce on me out of nowhere. Huh? Weren't you the one who brought up divorce first? Don't tell me you forgot what you said. Is your memory okay?
Up until now, I rarely talked back, so my abrupt insistence on divorce with a raised voice probably threw him for a loop. Taylor just stared at me, speechless. However, he seemed to quickly come to his senses. Cutting me off, he put on a show of bravado.
No matter what you say, my mind's made up about the divorce. Just hurry up and sign the papers. Fine. If you're gonna be so insistent, I'll give you your damn divorce. I'll be out of this house in no time. Have it your way.
Taylor signed haphazardly and slammed the divorce papers onto the table, as if to vent his rage.
And don't come crawling back later, saying you want to get back together.
I'm remarrying Virginia.
Why would I ever say I want to get back together? If anything, you better not come groveling to me. Shut up! Like I'd ever grovel to you. Get over yourself!
For someone who just got caught red-handed cheating and is now facing termination, he sure is carefree. Judging by his attitude, he probably thinks I'm bluffing about reporting him to his workplace. I watched Taylor's back as he stomped off to his room, each step deliberately loud. Within a week, Taylor had packed his belongings and moved out.
See you, ugly hag!
His parting shot was so childish, I couldn't help but laugh. Not wanting to waste any more time on him, I decided not to seek alimony in the divorce proceedings. He gets to divorce me without paying a cent in alimony. Honestly, it's the best possible outcome for Taylor. Right after I brought up divorce, Taylor was a mess, alternating between devastation and sudden bouts of rage, but based on that final display, his anger toward me seems to have won out. Once Taylor left, I filed the divorce papers. Then I reached out to the president of the company where Taylor and Virginia work, providing evidence of their affair. The president listened to my story, seeming oddly unsurprised.
What are these two like at the company?
Well, I get the sense that they're a bit problematic in various ways. I've heard from other employees that their work ethic is poor and they half-ass their assignments.
I was told Taylor was well respected at the company, but that was a lie?
I don't know all the details, but I certainly don't have the impression that he's someone others rely on. The fact that he could lie in that situation. I had to admire his gall. Based on what the president said, the idea of Taylor getting promoted also seems laughable. Thank you. I have to say, I never imagined they would stoop to infidelity during work hours. I'd like to speak with them directly before deciding on disciplinary action.
I appreciate it.
1 week later, the president informed me that he had issued termination notices to Taylor and Virginia. While I had declared they were fired, I was a bit concerned that the evidence and grounds for that punishment might be on the flimsy side, so I breathed a sigh of relief. Perhaps now the gravity of their situation would finally sink in for those two. Or so I thought, but on the night I heard from the president, I was relaxing at home when my cell phone started ringing. A glance at the screen revealed Taylor's name. For someone who claimed to despise me, he sure went out of his way to call. For a split second I wondered what he wanted, but I quickly surmised he was reaching out to complain about actually getting fired. In that case, the smart move was not to answer. I let the phone keep ringing and set it down on the table. But Taylor's calls were incessant. The moment one ended, it started right back up again, grating on my nerves. If I kept ignoring him, I had a feeling he might come barging into the house, so I reluctantly picked up.
Hello? Don't you hello me? What are you so chill for?
The second I answered, Taylor's enraged screaming assaulted my ear. His voice was so loud, I instinctively pulled the phone away.
Why are you so angry? What do you want? You really King reported us to the company, didn't you? The president called me in and said I was fired.
Why would I lie about that? And to think, that stuff about you being relied on at work was all BS.
Shut up! What are you gonna do about this? Virginia and I are both out of a job now, you know that.
Taylor seems intent on blaming me for his unemployment, but this whole situation is entirely the fault of those two. If they hadn't been fooling around in the first place, they never would have ended up fired. But even if I pointed that out, Taylor would undoubtedly refuse to listen. Without arguing back, I calmly let Taylor vent. However, my composed demeanor only seemed to further inflame his temper.
Why are you so quiet? Say something, damn it!
What do you want me to say? That I'll hire you?
Who the hell would want to work at your company? You need to apologize to us and pay damages. It's your fault we lost our jobs, so you better cover our living expenses too. If you refuse, I'll sue your ass. Got it?
Convinced of his own innocence, Taylor spewed the kind of nonsense only he could. Still, the fact that he genuinely seems to think he has grounds to sue me is puzzling. Does he actually believe that simply threatening legal action will make me unconditionally comply? Exasperated by his unchanging immaturity, I heaved a deep sigh. What are you even saying? A lawsuit? Seriously? On what grounds do you plan to sue me? For getting us fired and stuff. If you really think getting fired is my fault, you must have an awfully empty head on your shoulders. Let me guess, you figure you can just toss out the word lawsuit and call it a day? How shallow can you be?
Shallow. You're the last person I want to hear that from.
Taylor clearly doesn't even grasp the meaning of the word shallow. Trying to reason with him any further would be an exercise in futility. No matter what I say, it won't get through to him. If you want to keep prattling on about lawsuits and damages, I'm hanging up.
Hey! What's with that attitude? Quit looking down on me.
Okay, bye now. Cutting Taylor off mid-sentence, I ended the call. When he tried ringing again, I ignored it and blocked his number. I set my now silent phone on the table and stretched out on the couch for a nap. But a few days later, I was made painfully aware of my own lack of foresight. About a week after Taylor's call, I was in the middle of household chores when the intercom buzzed. I wasn't expecting any deliveries or visitors, so I warily checked the monitor. There, looking livid, were Taylor and Virginia. Had they come all the way to my home just to give me an earful? If so, their obsession with me was bordering on disturbing. Maybe it would be best to ignore them. But they both appeared to be seething with rage. If they let their anger get the better of them and smashed a window or broke the lock, it would be a huge hassle. Steeling myself, I started toward the front door, but right then, the intercom rang out again. At the same time, I could hear forceful pounding on the door. I hurried to the entryway and opened the door. "Why are you here?"
You took forever to come out. It's common sense to get your ass to the door as soon as the intercom goes off.
Being lectured on common sense by people who have none.
Don't you dare mock me.
It's almost comical how they still fancy themselves bastions of common decency. Oh, I wasn't trying to mock you. Just stating the fact that you lack common sense.
God, you piss me off.
Seeing Taylor at a loss for a decent retort, I had to stifle a laugh.
Wipe that grin off your face.
You're such a nasty piece of work. The pair kept spouting meaningless abuse, never getting to the point. So, what do you want? I'm busy, you know.
Tell them to take back our firing. And if you can't do that, then pay us damages and living expenses.
That's right. This is all your fault. We'll be in a bind if you don't take responsibility. I had a sneaking suspicion this was why they came all the way to my house. While I sort of saw it coming, having it confirmed still threw me for a bit of a loop. I mean, if you two hadn't cheated or had done your jobs properly, you wouldn't have gotten fired in the first place. How many times do I have to?
But you're the one who triggered our firing, aren't you? Going out of your way to tattle to the president is just pathetic.
Exactly. You're way too obsessed. What, are you jealous that I stole Taylor from you? Well, too bad, he chose me, so being jealous won't change anything. As if I'd be motivated by something as petty as jealousy. How long are they going to keep twisting reality to suit their own narrative?
Are you being serious right now?
Duh. Anyway, you'd better shut up and do as we say. The money. Even after all this, you still don't think you did anything wrong? Sure, I might have been the catalyst, but in the end, it was the president who decided to fire you. In other words, even he felt your conduct was unbecoming of the company. Do you get what that means? Finally venting the anger I had bottled up, I raised my voice at the two of them. They were visibly taken aback by my outburst.
You're supposed to be adults. Quit being so self-centered. It's pathetic.
Self-centered?
You're nothing but self-centered. Did you honestly believe you could just demand money and make your firing go away? Don't make me laugh.
If it's come to this, I have no choice but to resort to my last option. And if this doesn't get them to back down, I'll have to consult the proper authorities. I'd like you to pay me alimony from the divorce.
Huh?
Wait.
Why?
You know, I wasn't actually planning on seeking alimony. But if you're going to be this persistent with your outrageous claims, that's a different story. I expect you to pay up and atone for everything you've done. Mentioning alimony seemed to leave the pair at a loss for words. But Virginia quickly launched into a rebuttal.
Hold on. Why should we have to pay alimony to someone that's already divorced? We have nothing to do with you anymore. Why, yeah. There's no way that would fly.
Didn't you know? Even after a divorce,
you can still file for alimony within a certain time frame.
No way! Finding themselves in a position where they might owe me money, the gravity of their situation finally seemed to dawn on them. But that doesn't mean they'll obediently comply.
We don't have the money. Oh look, we'll apologize for everything up until now. So don't go asking for alimony. He's right. We're sorry for saying all those horrible things. There. That should do it, right? So about the alimony. I had a hunch you two were strapped for cash. Taylor's always been a reckless spender. No matter how much you apologize, my stance isn't going to change. And if you think a half-baked apology like that is enough to be forgiven, you seriously need to rethink some things.
The pair is clearly desperate to avoid paying alimony, citing their lack of funds, but that's not my problem. I'm going to squeeze them for every penny I can and make them rue their past actions.
I don't care what you say or do. My mind is made up. Expect to hear from my lawyer, so you can go home for today.
But
nothing. Go on, get out of here.
I shoved them out the door, forcibly ejecting them from my home. The intercom immediately started buzzing again, accompanied by banging on the door and the sound of someone trying to force it open. But when I informed them I'd call the police if they kept this up, the noise finally ceased. As promised, I later filed for divorce alimony from Taylor and Virginia through my lawyer. I didn't attend the negotiations myself, but my lawyer filled me in on how it went. Apparently, they kept whining about how they absolutely didn't want to pay. But in the end, they gave up and grudgingly agreed to the payments. If they had just kept their mouths shut, they would have been fine, but they had to go and show up at my doorstep. It reaffirmed how glad I was to be divorced from someone as immature as Taylor. Now, a year later, I've been receiving alimony payments from Taylor and Virginia, so I know they're at least getting by. For a little while after the money started coming in, Taylor would email me, claiming things weren't working out with Virginia and that he wanted to get back together. But there's no way I'd ever reconcile with him. Figuring it would be a waste of time to even respond, I kept ignoring him until the emails abruptly stopped. I don't know what became of their relationship, nor do I particularly care. As for me, I'm still fighting the good fight as company president day in and day out. Business is booming, and we've started laying the groundwork for expansion. I'm blessed with excellent employees, and I consider myself lucky. I feel like I could do just about anything to protect this company. Grateful for an environment that instills such conviction in me, I pour my all into my work, today and every day.